A warm welcome to the second episode of Outlook Master Talk series. This show is mainly set up to understand the key investment strategies from the leading fund managers in the country. To set a bit of a context for today's discussion, we've seen a strong growth in the sustainable investing across all key investment markets globally. Earlier, it was largely driven by institutional investors like pension funds, but now it is gaining traction from retail investors as well. COVID crisis surely pushed the demand for the sustainable investing. Investors have started to give more attention to issues like climate and environment. Driven by this increased investor demand, the sustainable funds saw strong inflows of around rupees 3,500 crores in the financial year 2021, which is a jump of almost 76% from the previous fiscal year. And this trend is expected to gather more momentum as we move along. So, with this background, let's start today's episode of the Master Talk series on ESG funds powered by Refinitiv and LSEG Business in association with Outlook Money. So I'm Deepak Khurana, your host for the session today. I'm the Proposition Sales Director, Sustainable Finance and LIBOR Asia Pacific at Refinitiv. Today we have with us Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, KG, Senior Fund Manager, ICICI Prudential Asset Management, and he's the Fund Manager for ESG Fund at ICICI Prudential. So let's talk to him and pick his brain on this important subject, ESG and sustainable investing. I'll call Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan Ellen. That's how people in the industry kind of address him. So Mr. Ellen, a warm welcome to you. Let's start with basics. Please help us understand the concept of ESG investing. Is it being looked at as a product theme here in India, or rather an integral part of the investment process within the country? Mr. Allen, if you could give your comments here.
Thanks, Deepak, for having me here. I'm delighted to engage with you in the next 60 minutes or so. A bit of a disclaimer. The disclaimer is that we are all learning the various parts of ESG and how it can be incorporated into investing. So I'm also in that learning process. So I'm not the the so-called perfect guru of ESG investing. That's the disclaimer to start with. And I think let's get into the discussions now. And now your first question is that is it seen more as how the Indian investors are seeing it, right? Yeah. Now, see, what has happened is that in India, everybody wants to look at people want to feel happy about not only returns but also how the returns are also made, right? And that is it's always been there, and it is catching up faster also in India. While returns are important and the means to achieve the returns are also important. Now, in India, if you look at it, in the last 2 years, there are mutual fund schemes that are focused on ESG is gaining prominence. As we speak, I think around 11,000 crores or so of 11,000 plus or minus is the total quantum of AUM handled by the ESG funds, right? It is still a drop compared to the assets under management of the Indian mutual fund industry. So it is catching up, and the people have realized that companies that are taking care of environment, that they don't do any damage to the environment. They take care of all the stakeholders, be it government, be it share owners, or be it employees, be it suppliers, be it vendors, and also how they have their governance practices, right? And how diverse is their board? What are the disclosure standards? all those things are gaining prominence, and we have seen that companies with good governance, companies that take care of their stakeholders, has always have returned higher shareholder returns, right? So the concept is catching up from a size point of view, and also that companies are also embracing it. And our regulator is also particular that companies start reporting with respect to ESG.
Great. You made some, very pertinent points, Mr. Allen. So integration of ESG factors in the core investment process, I think, is the need of our, and these factors help in mitigating some of the risk and enhance the long-term performance of the funds. And also, the point that you mentioned around the investors drawing of basically a pleasure that they have actually contributed to a sort of a greenness of the entire economy. So with this, let's move to our next question. That is, so we can clearly see that ESG investing has made significant inroads globally, especially in some advanced markets like Europe. And as per us, that means Refinitiv, the AUM of ESG SRI funds globally has now touched the mark of USD 60 trillion as on June 2021. So while we have seen some strong growth globally, so what's the scope of sustainable funds here in India? While you mentioned about some of these initial numbers, but the overall scope of sustainable funds going forward, what kind of a potential you see going forward?
So as I mentioned, the designated or the so-called the branded ESG products, if you look at it from the Indian mutual fund side, it's somewhere around 11,000, 12,000 crore, right? Now, what is also taking place is that when more companies are improving their disclosure norms, and that the regulator is also asking the companies to report with higher disclosure levels. It is like a flywheel effect where investors want it, regulator want it, and companies also want they want to be seen as responsible companies in their sectors, which will help them to attract better talent also, right? So while you quoted these numbers that the ESG funds are almost X trillion dollars, I would believe that I was told that almost 1/3 of the AUM by 2025 will be ESG funds globally running into several trillion dollars, right? Now, with respect to that, when you look at India, as I mentioned, right, it's less than $2 billion, right? So there is an awareness that is definitely building up, and Indian companies are waking up to it. And then ESG investing will not be just relegated to specific products. I think it will become much larger. And I think that is something which I don't think I can call it as a wave or something, but increasing awareness driven by a regulator as well as by investors, it will naturally it will go up. Right? The size that is size of investments that are handled in India will definitely inch up. I can't hazard a number as to what it could be, but as you mentioned that it is running into several $trillion, and in India, equity mutual funds are less than ESG mutual funds. Equity mutual funds are less than $2 billion. Now you can sense the how large it can actually scale up.
Absolutely. Yeah, so some very pertinent points again, Mr. Allen. Thanks for that. So indeed, the sustainable investing is going to play a key role in the Indian economy in future. And these products will help channelizing the capital to the green and sustainable activities. So with this, let's move to the next point that we are planning to cover. What's the size of ESG opportunity globally? and here in India. While I think we covered a bit of that in the previous question, but yes, if you could extend this a little further, get into some numbers, that would be really very helpful. Mr. Allen?
Yeah. So the number which you quoted is one, and the number which I have, I mean, I read somewhere that by 2025, almost $53 trillion of ESG focused funds will be there, like ESG focused AUM, right? Maybe almost 25% would be focused on debt, right? And that is what I understand. And the growth of flows into such funds is outpacing the growth of AUM flow into several other products, right? So the incremental AUM is flowing to the ESG focused funds. That's my understanding globally, because a lot of not only regulators, a lot of sovereign wealth funds are also focusing on what they call as responsible investing, and they want to align themselves to the SDG goals, right, of the UN, and this is very pertinent in certain pockets, especially the Scandinavian and European wealth funds and pension funds, and it is growing, right now. I don't have the exact number where it will go, but directionally we see that the AUM flow to such funds are increasing faster than the other.
Yeah, definitely. So very insightful comments, Mr. Allen. And I think we can clearly see that it's a structural and a long-term opportunity that we have in hand from this theme. And apart from, I think, the ESG labeled funds, there are a lot of other measures also being tracked. There are basically, there are a set of institutions who have actually signed up for this PRI, who have become the PRI signatory. So they are essentially, they have this, requirement to apply for ESG factors in their entire investment products. So it's not just the ESG themed product that they're managing. Apart from that, the entire, the plethora of the investment products that are being managed by them, all of them are being based on, ESG investment as a process. So with this, let's move to the next one. What are the key drivers and the challenges for institutional investors for building sustainable sustainable investment practices? What measures and methods are being implemented by investors to understand the ESG performance of companies?
So, so if I mean, there is an interesting study by one of the large broking institutions, which said that they compared some of the three global ESG rating, the companies that actually give out these ESG ratings, and there's a wide diversion between how they rate, right? So there is a lot of subjectivity in ESG rankings or ESG scores, as we call. So it makes the job of investment managers quite difficult, because which rating agency you actually would which third party rating you would actually depend upon, because they are quite they are very big divergences there. So even if you take our benchmark, right, which is a Nifty ESG index, Nifty ESG 100 index, right? If you just look at the ratings of those companies, somewhere between 1 to 8.3, 1 being the lowest and 8.3 being the highest, right? So there's a spectrum of that. Now, and that's an index, and how do you ensure that you build your portfolio based on which? How do you build your portfolio? It's an important challenge which investment managers would face, because whether you use one rating methodology or the other rating methodology, and that is evolving, right? And then there is a coming together of certain frameworks, Globally, that is what is taking place, and even in India, as we move forward, I find that there is this. SEBI has said that we will actually have the BRSR rating, right? So to just go back to your question, the investment managers have used either their own internal proprietary research, as well as they depend on external third-party rating agencies. Even I mean, we did this exercise, how the top 10 AMCs in the world, how they look at this, right? And we understood that around 8 of those top 10 globally large asset managers, they have their own internal proprietary process of ESG. Having said that, all of them have they have purchased the license or the software of a rating agency to also ensure that what they are doing is also kind of externally validated, right? Why? So it is an amalgam of internal processes as well as using some of the external third-party rating agencies. But keeping in mind that the ratings are quite divergent between, you take the top 3 ESG rating firms, for the same company, the ratings are quite divergent.
Great. Again, very insightful comments, Mr. Allen. Thanks for that. Understand the challenges faced by you of diverse ratings and the information pool available to you. And I think all key stakeholders like policymakers, corporates, and the investment industry need to come together to overcome some of these challenges and ensure more of a uniformity of disclosures within the country. So with this, let's move to the next one. What are the key factors considered while adopting sustainable investing methods, and what kind of data sets are investors looking at? Specific data measures, data indicators that you as an investor consider while making investments in the companies?
It's a good question. If you look at it, as I mentioned, there is internal research processes. So, for example, in our firm, our research process includes evaluating companies on various parameters, financial as well as the ESG part of it, right? And we also validate ourselves with external third-party data providers. And we take whenever there is an external data is given, we use that as a tool, and we actually use that rating. Now we also engage with companies on a regular basis as part of a stewardship role, and then also help them to either point out some of the ESG gaps, and then we just tell them that, look, this is what this is an area where you need to improve. To sum up, we have an internal process which relies on a lot of primary and secondary data. In addition to it, we subscribe to external third-party rating providers, and that will gives us a good view of what are the various parameters to take, and where there is an improvement in these scores also, right? So I think to put it in a nutshell, we use internal, we use third-party providers, and also we also follow a lot of news flows, of course. That also gives us a lot of information. I mean that's the summary of what are the various data sources we use.
Great. Yeah, so some very interesting points, Mr. Allen. Thanks for that. So we at Refinitiv also clearly recognize these evolving data needs of investors like you. We are making significant efforts to provide an extensive content coverage on ESG factors. for India as well as for the global market. With this, let's move to the next one. A lot of information is available to ESG investors, though here in India specifically, we still lack consistency in disclosures. So can you please help understand how do fund managers measure the ESG performance? So while you touched upon that broader, data sources are being used, do you put them into certain ranking model to kind of come up with the ESG performance and then shortlist companies? So keen to know your thoughts on that.
It's a good question. See, there is, as I said, relying on one data set will not be the right method to use, right? And also, it has been proven. I was reading a research report by one of the good sell side firms. The companies that actually are improving their ESG scores create better alpha than the companies that already have high ESG scores, right? So while it is important for us to invest in companies that have a high ESG score, it is also important for us to ensure that we actually identify companies that are on the path to improving their ESG score, either by themselves, or we identify areas for those companies and say that, look, you need to improve your ESG score by doing A, B, C, right? To give an example, we were looking at a conglomerate, which is one of our portfolio companies, and we found that they did not have adequate diverse board representation, right? And also in senior leadership positions. So we would go ahead and recommend them that why don't you actually do it? Now that helps us to not only help the companies which have invested to get to better ESG rankings, but also we see that the better returns are made by investing in companies that are on the path to improve the ESG scores, right? And in terms of, you said there are a lot of information actually is available, right? Now, while that is true, as a country, we are moving towards better reporting norms suggested by SEBI, which is the BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability reporting format, right? So this will ensure that the top 1,000 listed companies by market capitalization, these companies have to report report various things under 9 different buckets, right? And the top 1,000 companies listed in India by market cap have to do it mandatorily from FY23, and voluntarily they can start doing from this financial year, that is FY22 onwards. And the moment and SEBI is incorporating the reporting, looking at multiple framework like GRI, SASB, TCFD, etc. And this, I think, in the next 2-3 years, I believe that this will improve the disclosure norms, and it will also bring some kind of a standardization of reporting in India.
So yeah, agree with your points made by you, all the points made by you, Mr. Allen. Interesting point that you actively engage with your portfolio companies. So what is the format? How do you do that kind of engagement? Is this one-to-one, or you are meeting them on these scheduled, regular meetings like quarterly results and all, or it's just more of a one-to-one access that you have to the set of companies wherein you have higher investments?
It is, it is our role as a firm to ensure that the companies which we invest are adhering to the best standards in governance, in various other factors. I mean, not only financial but also the governance part. And this is a regular process, and we meet companies quite frequently, maybe quarterly or half yearly or whatever, right? And in these interactions, we at times we talk to them on how they can improve their disclosures, for example, how they can improve the not only disclosure but also how they actually communicate to their stakeholders, right?
Right.
And this is an ongoing process. So it is not that this is actually coming just because there is an ESG element to it, right? But this is always an ongoing process.
Yeah.
But now the companies also understand that they understand that they can actually get a better market capitalization, or they can maximize shareholder wealth if they actually follow certain practices, right?
Right.
It could be as simple as annual report improving annual reports. It could be as getting a very diverse board. It is scheduling investor calls. It could be various different things, right? And to your question, whether it is part of our do we slot time separately for it? Sometimes yes. We tell that, look, this is what we found in your annual report. Your disclosures should improve, right? Or sometimes it's when we meet them in a regular calendarized meeting once in quarter, we actually mention to them. So it's as part of our stewardship role, which we do with all our portfolio companies. This also comes as part of it. We have been doing it earlier. Now there is an ESG element also to it, right?
Right. Great. So, some very interesting points, Mr. Al. Thanks for that. So, I clearly acknowledge that we as a country need to adapt a better taxonomy and disclosure standards. And so, with this note, let's move to the next one. So, how do you integrate ESG analysis, ESG factors alongside traditional financial analysis? And how does that help to enhance returns and reduce regulatory and reputational risk in your portfolio?
So, if I look at our normal research process, we actively cover more than 400 companies in India, listed in India, and of course we cover some few companies outside India also. And I think we would have close to around 2,500 odd companies that are in the listed and traded regularly in India, and of which we through our own consideration set, applying certain qualitative and quantitative filters, we have around 400 companies, right? And what goes into the consideration set is definitely governance goes into the consideration set, which I'm talking about the whole firm, not just the ESG scheme which I manage, right? So there is in that filtration process, there are companies that actually doesn't even come into a consideration set. And that is one way of integrating that look by way of eliminating certain companies which don't fit into the some of the buckets like governance, right? Now, in terms of how do I then coming to the ESG fund in specific, how do I incorporate the company details? It's fairly a simple exercise, right? One is there is this 400 is a consideration set, right, as a firm, and of course there is this Nifty ESG 100 index, which is also a list of around 100 companies, and between these two, I mean, of course, this 100 is a subset of that 400. We look at companies that are, as I said, improving the ESG scores. When I say improving ESG score, it could be as simple as is there a clear demarcation between the chairman and the managing director? Whether there is the board is diverse, whether they pay. They pay tax on time, and various other things, right? So we also look at fundamental reasons to invest in a stock. So while there is a consideration set that is built based on various filters, and what we overlay is the valuation, because we need to create better return for our investors. So we take the list of companies that are covered by the firm, and within that there is also the company that are part of the index, and then within that we also look at companies that have either improving their ESG scores, and also companies that have available at a fair valuation. Every company that goes into the portfolio, be it ESG fund or otherwise, always every company has an ESG rating attached to it. So the endeavor for an ESG fund in specific is that the weighted average ESG score of the portfolio should be better than the weighted average ESG score of the Nifty ESG 100 index, right? That is one way to ensure that we don't really miss the right companies, and ensure that we invest at the right valuation and we create better return to our investors. So to summarize, various criteria. One is our filter process. Second is that valuation, and the third is definitely how they improve the ESG scores. And every company in our research process has an ESG score attached to it.
I think kind of the process of best-in-class screening for basic ESG factors, and then having an overlay of valuation, fundamental valuation. Great. I think clearly explains that ESG playing an important role in your portfolio construction process, not only just for the ESG fund, rather for the entire all funds offered under your asset management umbrella. So with this, let's move to the next one. What investment models are being used for picking up better ESG performing companies, and how effective are these models? And is there a room for some improvement in the existing models? And if yes, what are the expectations from such models as far as fund managers and institutions are concerned?
So the investment model is not very complicated, right? The investment model for an ESG fund is to invest in companies that have better ESG practices, which is interwoven in the way in which they do the business, in addition to companies that are actually aspiring to improve on their ESG parameters. As I mentioned, that we have seen that globally, it's not just the companies that have high ESG standards that have created better return, but companies that are in the path to improve the ESG scores actually does well, right? So the investment model, so to speak, comprises these set of companies, and of course there is this. If I look at the portfolio, how you construct the portfolio, how do you size the specific constituents, and how do you manage risk? It's very important, right? So the investment models is similar to any portfolio. Any portfolio manager you can ask, right? The investment process is by and large the same. But if you go to the specific ESG fund, we are much more careful about the companies we actually invest in, and how they are evolved. I think it is. I would say that it is evolving, right? We use, as I mentioned, that we use the various parameters, internal scoring, external scoring. We always see that whether our score is validated by an external third party ESG rating, and then we look at the weighted average of the portfolio. What is the ESG score that the portfolio has? So investment model is similar. Have your consideration set, and within that sharpen your focus on companies that have high ESG rankings, or companies that are actually improving their ESG scores, and then you apply your portfolio management approach of giving superior return with taking appropriate risk, I would say.
Yeah. So I could add just a couple of more points here on the same point. So, from the modeling point of view, are you giving emphasis to any specific parameters, like, and are you sort of varying your weightages as per various industries? For example, the emissions could be more relevant for, say, coal as an industry, and people, which is more of social parameters that are more pertinent to segments like other industries like banking, which are people heavy. So, any modeling around that you've done through which you're able to deliver better ESG portfolios?
Very valid question, because it is it is not a very easy uh, answer, easy way to answer that question in terms of few parameters, right? So let's take a sector like aviation, right? Now, of course, aviation gives a lot of carbon footprints, but then what is an alternative to flying, right? So, and it is difficult to eliminate an industry. What we need to do is that within that industry, is that player behaving responsibly, right? Now, within aviation, if you take a sector, is the specific company you are investing in, is it cognizant of the emission related carbon footprints, and what are they doing to curtail it? Are they paying their employees on time? Are they paying their vendors on time? Are they having the best in class governance, right? So there are, of course, there are certain investment firms which say that we will not invest in a particular sector, right? There are some firms, they say that we don't want to invest in a particular sector because we call it as a dirty sector, or whatever, right? But it is difficult to eliminate that, because the ESG has to be seen in which context you are operating in, right? Naturally, banks don't emit. There is no pollution emission by any services company for that matter, right? So one has to look at within a particular sector, a services sector, or within an aviation sector, which companies are actually behaving better in the ESG scores, right? And you cannot compare, two different sectors or industries applying one single metric, right? It doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's how we look at it. So we say that, look, okay, I mean, let's actually look at this particular sector. Okay, within that, is the player performing responsibly, keeping in mind the ESG? I think that's the better way to approach, instead of saying that, look, you will not invest in a sector because it has, it emits CO2.
Great. Very valuable insights. Thanks for that. And clearly, this is an evolving area, and we shall see more improved research models, processes as we move along. So, with this, let's move to the next one. What key disclosures should be made by sustainable funds for individual investors, essentially from the perspective of the sustainable objectives set out by the fund, and how these are being adhered to? More on the disclosures from the funds itself.
If you look at the Indian context, right, the disclosures are fairly well known in terms of the portfolio is disclosed quite regularly, right? I mean, what companies we own and what is the composition of the portfolio. Now, there has always been a suggestion that from uh, various stakeholders, that why don't we actually, in addition to giving the portfolio size and um, the regular disclosures which we make on a monthly basis, why don't we actually add the ESG ratings, right? But there's a problem in that, is that ESG ratings are, as I said, right? You take the top three rating agencies in the world on ESG. For the same company, the ratings are quite diverse. So how do you do it? So it doesn't give the right picture. So so we need to actually see how the disclosure can be made company specific. Let's say, for example, if you take the ESG portfolio, right? When we disclose what companies we own, what is the sector it is in, what is the AUM, and what percentage of the AUM is held in this particular company. Now, while you may say that, look, in addition to that, you give the ESG score, but then that's a very that's not the right approach, because, as I said, right, returns are also made by companies that are actually improving on their ESG thing, and we actually catch them much ahead of time. So if you just have an ESG score next to it, um, uh, you can make whatever opinion you can. I mean, you can make any opinion of that, but that is not the right approach, I would feel. I think that having the portfolio disclosure is one, but what would happen is that, as I mentioned, that the BRSR is going to get. I mean, over the next 2-3 years, we will have that available for the 1,000 companies. Maybe we will move towards some kind of a standardized ESG disclosure for all companies we own in the portfolio. But because of the divergence in the ratings, it is difficult to actually put a particular score and saying that, look, this particular scheme has the score of X, right? I think that's something which we need to evolve, and we need to have dialogues with various stakeholders and see what is the right thing to do. Yeah. But I believe that, if you're having this 3 years or 5 years from now, things will be much different when the ratings are much more evolved, and there is a common nomenclature and this common number which we actually we can use.
Yeah, so Mr. Alan, actually, I just want to clarify. I was actually not referring to the disclosing any ratings next to the names that are owned by you. Rather, having certain direct data measures added in your disclosures. Something on the lines of SFDR, which has been started in Europe. Which is encouraging, the asset managers and also other financial institutions to give insights into their emissions, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions at a portfolio level, at an aggregated portfolio level. And it's not just for the emissions. There are a few, I think, 50 odd parameters that are being prescribed. Yeah. So something on those lines. So are you, as of now, we all know that as of now we do not have any regulatory requirements in place for such disclosures. So you, as a asset manager, you are taking any proactive efforts to kind of disclose certain information with your key investors or to public at large?
So there are discussions taking place at multiple stakeholder levels, right? Which is actually pointing out to something which you just mentioned. How do we bring the disclosure levels to the best, globally? Now those are still at discussion level. I think over a period of time, as I mentioned, right, we will have better standardized disclosure across not only from my firm, but also across all the mutual funds. I think that is something which it is evolving and discussions are on, and in fact we are the most progressive country where the regulator is actually prescribing that the top 1,000 companies have to go through this BRSR. And if you look at, we examined various large regulators, right? Be it the US, China, Japan, Europe. We found that, as you said, like in Europe, it's much more evolved. There is a regulatory thing, but in other countries, it is not much prescriptive or KPI driven. In India, SEBI is making it happen. And to go back to your question, there are discussions taking place right now, so that this particular thing of having a proper reporting for the at the fund level. I mean, as I said, there are discussions going on, and it will come to that particular juncture. I'm sure that we are progressing, and maybe less than a year there'll be some clarity there.
Great. Yeah, so I think agree with most of your points. Yes, I think we as an industry is working towards improving our disclosure standards. So with that, we have come to the end of today's episode of Master Talk presented by Refinitiv in association with Outlook. Thank you, Mr. Allen, for joining us today, sharing your thoughts on the sustainable investing and the investment strategies run by you. And viewers, we hope you enjoyed our conversation today. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, do write to us. You could reach us at letters@outlookmoney.com.
Thank you. Thank you.